he's told me, he said, baby, not everybody's going to love me. Not everybody loves Chick-fil-A and Jesus. Yeah. And I'm like, remind myself of that.
That's what I told her. I said, when you lay your soul or your life out on social media, somebody's going to say something negative, no matter how good or how it's just what people do. And I said, there's people on Facebook don't love Jesus or Chick-fil-A. So what makes you think they're going to love us for everything we do? You just have to know what's coming and stand firm that I don't intentionally try to do anything. I have an opinion. I try to keep it downplayed so much, but I don't hide the fact that we're very country, redneck, deer hunting, farming people. This is what we do. And we make mistakes. We're trying to help raise grandchildren. We're trying to do our best for our marriage and work, but we just want to show people. That way, when you meet somebody, they can say, dude, you're exactly what's on Facebook. Yeah, because I ain't going to fake it. I would rather be who I am and you dislike me as me to fake it and you like me.
Hey, y'all. I'm super happy this week to be talking to two of my oldest and dearest friends in the fishing industry, Gerald and LeAnn Swindle. I'm sure most of you know of Gerald Swindle. He's a top angler in the sport, known for his humor and passion. In addition to being a great angler, Gerald's also a deep thinker, a truly caring human, and a true blue American original. His wife, LeAnn, is just as good as it gets. She's got a huge heart, a smart head on her shoulders, and the patience of a saint, if you ask me. Whew, G-Man's a handful. But they have a great marriage and a great business partnership. LeAnn is Gerald's business manager and his marketing director and his accountant and his chauffeur and she just keeps all the plates in the air for him, and she stays cool as the other side of the pillow while she does it. I thought it would be valuable to you to hear about how they make their business relationship work. As you grow and become more and more successful, you'll probably need a support system to help you keep all the plates in the air. This could be your wife or husband, your mom or dad, your best friend, or even somebody you hire to do the job. Now, before you get started, I need to tell you that we had some technical difficulties while we were recording this, so bear with me, y'all. I left all that in because, hey, it's real life. We all cuss our internet service sometimes, don't we? And at the end of the day, the things we talked about here are much more important than a few audio problems or a dropped call, and I really wanted you to hear this conversation. Ready, y'all? Here we go. All right, Gerald and LeAnn Swindle, I'm so glad to see y'all. Most people out there probably know you as G and know LeAnn as Lulu, because sometimes I think Lulu might have more fans than you do, G.
She does. She said this year at the Classic, she said, I've never signed this many autographs. She said, I'm actually tired. I'm signing. I was like, there you go. Her fan base.
I love it.
It's funny because, like, I fished this last week without her, and everybody was like, hey, where's Lulu? Where's Lulu? And I'm like, she's at the house. I start sending her out here, and I'll stay at home.
I never stay home, but I did this time, and I got so much done, though. I got so many projects completed, so much work, caught up on. So it was good. It was good for me to stay home and skip this one. He had a roommate at this one and a cameraman. So they were bachelors this week.
Yeah, well, you were probably happy to be at home during all those shenanigans. Hey, do you guys remember how we all met? How I met each one of y'all?
I do.
I told LeAnn, I was thinking I met you early on in early FLW days.
Yep.
Early. Probably our first, and I'm not sure of all the details, probably our first really acquaintance was when I won Beaver Lake.
That's it, man. I remember we had this soundbite of you talking about you were so excited about catching this fish. And I can't remember. I think it had the hook in the top and the bottom lip. And I just remember you reeled off this big blah, la, 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 wired shut. And that's all I could understand was the wired shut part.
So I think I first acquaintance with you guys, I met you and Jerry and the whole crew. It's kind of when I was getting to know everybody. And then LeAnn.
Mine was at the Classic in 2003. That was my first Classic.
Now, see, I remember, and I don't remember the year, but I remember being at Smith Lake, and it was raining.
That was 2004. So we met at the, what do they call it? Like the sponsor gift, the gifting suite.
Yeah.
And then in 2004, because I remember I walked up to you and you were talking to someone, and I just kind of lingered there until you got finished. And I was like, I wanted to reintroduce myself to you. So
I remember that because it was raining and mud. It was a mud hole, and I think you had been at work because you were all dressed up and had on heels. And I remember looking over and thinking, oh my gosh, she's going to ruin those pretty shoes.
I don't do that anymore.
That's right.
About that, you can tell the veteran wives from the wives that are just starting. Veteran wives come to the weigh-ins now. If it's raining, they have on muck boots, yoga pants, ball cap, ponytail, and they're like, "Yep, they've been here."
Sponsored logo, rain jackets.
Yeah, they're veterans. They don't care. I mean, it's like, let's just get the job done, get out of the mud, and go home.
They're not trying to look cute.
Not looking cute.
No.
So y'all have been married for 15 years?
16 this past May.
16, wow. So LeAnn, how much have you learned about the fishing industry in these 16 years?
I'm still learning. I really am. Coming from my background in banking to, and Gerald and I were married, a few months, and we decided that I would take a sabbatical from work so I could stay home, help our daughter go to school, be there when he was home. We decided it would be best for me not to go back to the bank. I mean, I immediately started learning because it was such a change from what I was used to. But yeah, today, I think I'm still learning. I really do. It's
because business is ever changing. And when we first got married, I told her, I said, we just didn't think as a married couple raising a daughter, it was good for both of us to be at work and gone so much. Because you have a teenager at home, a young teen, and we're like, we didn't want to create an unhealthy environment with both of us chasing careers. And I asked her, I said, if you will sacrifice your job and your career and help me run mine, I will double down, work twice as hard. I'll do everything I can to provide. At least we'll have a center nucleus at the house when we're here together. So for the first couple of years, she ran all the business from home before she ever traveled with me. And I can remember we would get together and start working in the office, and she would just be shaking her head. She goes, some of this is overwhelming. I'm like, you worked in the bank with numbers. She goes, it's different.
It's totally different.
These are people, relationships, sponsors. Everybody handles business different. Some have contracts, some have handshakes, trying to keep up with everything. But I would say, just over the 16 years, she's probably been more of an asset for my sponsors than I have. Because the first thing they say when we talk is like, when I meet people for the first time, like I might have worked with them on the phone for a year, they're like, she's on point. Like she books plane tickets, she gets it all done. And I think sponsors really appreciate that somebody's very attentive to detail and all that. And I suck at that stuff. I enjoy she's a detail person.
And I enjoy that. That's the thing we would talk about our career. The things that I enjoy doing, I feel like I'm fairly good at. The things that he enjoys doing, same thing. He doesn't enjoy doing my part, and I obviously physically can't do his. So it's really good. It works out really good for us.
And of course, Angie, you've seen this as well as anybody because you've seen my career from start. You're probably one of the few people that was there the very first time my life changed on that stage, winning that much money. You've seen my career grow and sponsors get on board and how things can take off. If you're a young angler and you can't reel that in and manage it, you lose a lot of money.
Oh, yeah.
She came in my life and was able to step up to do that. My mom helped me up to then, but she was getting older and LeAnn stepped up and she ran it. And I was like, it really allows you to just fish, to try to just fish. Because as your career grows and you get more sponsors, fishing is almost the back burner. People think, they'll look at Van Dam's resume sometime and they'll say, Van Dam has a great resume, or Ike does, or Gerald, you made a lot of checks. You want to tell you why you have angler years, but you want to say, what if that guy didn't have everything else on him? What could have Kevin done then? Because he don't fish as he used to fishes. So, and even with the office, it still can be overwhelming. So sometimes I just, on tour, I just say, honey, it's all yours. And we went from managing it to some days we feel like it gets too spread out. We're just not doing good. And in 2016, we moved from our house in Hayden to Gunnersville from almost 5,500 square foot to 780 square foot in the first house. And I said, honey, I want you to make me a promise. I said, if you will just keep everything off me for 1 year, I just want to fish. And she said, you just want to fish. I said, remove every burden you can for just 1 year and let me see what I can do. And I ended up winning AOY, and it was a tough year on her.
Maybe burden's not the right word. Distraction. Is a better word for that.
Where all you do is wake up thinking about fishing. She said, I'll block everything I can till the season's over.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I remember that too. I remember I was amazed because your house in Hayden was gorgeous. You know, I'd come there and seen y'all there, and I thought it was an incredible house. But I also realized that, I mean, a big house with a pool and a landscaped yard is a lot of work.
It's a lot of work. And when we would come home, we would just work again. And we were never there.
We were paying people basically to take care of it for us.
Yeah.
So
my
mom
even thought we were crazy. She said, baby, y'all crazy. Y'all built the dream home. You got everything you want. It's all paid for. Why are you moving? I said, because we don't need it, Mom. We don't need it. I said, we just want to live a simpler life. And we moved up here. It's almost like the purge is refreshing. You realize how much you don't need. I mean, we put everything. We literally moved in 780 square foot and was just happy. I didn't even have a place I had a carport to put my boat under. I had no tackle room. My boat stayed just.
You had a tackle closet.
It was 4 foot by 6 foot. Across the street, and he goes, bro, your rods have been on your front deck all year. Your tackle room has a water heater in it, and you just smoked AOY. And I'm like, it shows you when you just focus on fishing and clean your life up, the distractions they could be a nice, you know. And I said, and unfortunately, that's the way the business works. It's much more than just fishing. You have to do these other things.
And it seems like even 16 years later, we're busier now than we were 5 years ago. You know, you would think that every year, because it's just us, but you would think that you either get a better handle on it, but every year just gets busier and busier. I guess that's a good problem to have.
Right.
But like that time management, it's like, wow. So circling back, me staying home this past week, I can't tell you how many times he bragged on me because he said, look at what all you got.
She got so many projects done that I would be like, honestly, I know we may be chasing rabbits here, but I would be all fishing at like St. Clair, and I would be thinking, hey, I got to get back to my farmhouse. We got some mold under it. I've got to get it sealed up. I got to put the polyethylene down. I got this to do. I need to paint the back porch. She got it all done. When I come home.
Hey, I even filled up a deer feeder. That might have been a project. That was hard.
She filled up the deer. And she time with the grandkids in a way where it's just her and them, where I'm not up there working at 100 miles an hour from daylight to dark, where they do things that they enjoy. And I told her, I said, sometimes I think we may be at that part of my career where she stays home more, you know, to keep her better. So when we come home, we're more husband and wife time. It's a fine line. When you ride in the truck together, you work together 24/7. Sometimes it's hard to come home and be husband and wife because she knows I'm still pissed for missing a check. She's had to hear me gripe all the way home. It's, you know, you have to find that mix. And when people ask us, like, how do y'all do that? And I'm like, very carefully.
Yeah.
And I say, oh, butterflies and Skittle juice. It can get tough.
I told him, I said, you know, when you work with your spouse day in and day out, especially through quarantine, when you're together all the time, which I think I'm going to say I give us an A+ on that because we do get along very well. But I think when you get mad at your coworker, guess what? You're mad at your spouse. You're not just mad at your office manager or I'm not him on the business side. If I'm mad at him, I'm mad at him as my husband too. And so, you know, that doesn't happen very often, but you know, obviously it does. But that is the toughest part, I think, of working together is you don't just go home and complain to your spouse about your coworker because that is your
That's right.
Putting the bird on the trailer knowing that you just missed a $10,000 check.
And that disappointment.
As a competitor, I'm just, and you know me, Angie, I'm just enraged that I could not compete. And I'm just like, oh, this pisses me off. Well, it's hard to turn that off and say, this is still my wife. I don't need it, you know. That's the hardest thing is being able to detune that. And I don't know, we're learning a bunch about that. And like she said, it's just us. We do all the social media ourselves. We don't hire a bunch of people. We do all our video stuff from home here. And that's why there's misspelled words and chopped up edits. You know what? I come to find out
it's real.
My fans love it. So I'm like, you know what? Shit, it's great.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh.
But it is a heavy lift, man. It's a heavy lift when you're a one woman or one man show or two, you know, a couple. When you have to do everything, it's a lot.
I have her out in the garage helping me put camper shells on, helping me put jack plates on. She helped me change the trolling motor the other day. I mean, so she'll go from answering the phone to a potential sponsor, to out here holding up a trolling motor bracket as I'm drilling it. I mean, but I think as you've seen us, we celebrate together, we cry together, we go through tough times together. I think that's what made it so meaningful every time you took the stage in a winner's perspective. In 16, when they handed me that trophy, I couldn't say nothing. It that I'm just a weak person. Just the overwhelming feeling of success and knowing that she's been right there with me, you just don't know what to say.
And that was a tough season.
That was a special title for you for a lot of reasons. And it was really cool to see that come together like that.
We've learned so much from that, and we talk about that in this industry. Some of the things we've learned is no matter how bad things are, you got to know your spouse or your husband's got your back. Even if you're right, they got your back. They're going to be there through thick and thin, and that's such a valuable lesson. And that's her and I talk about that. I said one time I wanted to do a blog on, and I didn't because so many people will probably take it wrong, would be sponsors who expect loyalty from the angler, but don't give the loyalty back. It's like the loyalty road runs one way. Like, you be loyal to me, you work for less money, you do this, you do more, and you've seen it 100 times. But when push comes to shove, they ain't got Angie's back. Yeah. They're not when Angie's down and say, hey, I'm going to give you a little raise because it's been a tough year. So we've learned that's just corporate America. It's not bad people.
No, that's
just big businesses. That's just how they. So sad because you just have to balance that. Like, if you raised old school, my dad was so like, loyalty is life. You don't do nothing but be loyal. So sometimes I'm like, maybe we're loyal to a fault. I don't know. I don't know if it's a bad thing. I mean, I would like to get your perspective. You've seen it from every angle, from the angler's angle. You've been TV production forever. You've been in marketing and sales. You've probably seen more of the industry from top to bottom than most people out there. I mean, do you see loyalty going both ways?
I do. I mean, I've probably heard a lot of conversations that you guys don't get to hear where, and especially, gosh, I don't know how to say this to make it not sound like it's going to sound, but especially with older anglers, I've heard a lot of people say he has been really good to us, and and we want to make sure we take care of him. And y'all probably know some of the, what I'm talking about, the problem is it seems like the bigger the business, the bigger the company, and the bigger the corporation, the more turnover there is. And so it's hard to have, we know people, all of us know people that we've worked with for years, decades, that are at the same company, and we have long established relationships with them. But then you go, I mean, honestly, I'm not afraid to say this one because this is common knowledge, but, we work together with Mountain Dew and the PepsiCo company. They have a corporate policy that they want the people that are on their fast track to, high executive management, they want them to change roles every 18 months.
Toyota moves their people same position. If you're going to move to the highest level, they train you to a certain one, they move you to a different division. So it's never a long-term relationship in the corporate America. Now, smaller companies, bait companies, maybe so. Very few boat companies, but that corporate America that's switching. And we're seeing it faster more now than ever.
But It hurts. Our sponsors are family to us. So we form those relationships with people, and they're like family. So, you relationship up for a year or two, and then all of a sudden they're gone, and it's
just get the
sad.
email. They just get the email and say, "Hey, we've been moved."
Working with you. But no, we stay in touch. We're just one of those that we stay in touch with these people.
I reached out to Scott Sanders, which was worked with me at Triton forever. And I reached out to him the other day just to say hello, and he's like, "Man, what are you doing?" I said, "I'm just letting you know, I still like old Scott. I'm with Phoenix and wouldn't be any happier in the world." But Scott was a dear friend of mine.
Sure, Katie Scallon. From Gulf States Toyota. She's not there anymore, but she calls me the other day, FaceTimes me. She's in the airport in Huntsville. So we still try to maintain those relationships with those people just because they're friends.
But it's interesting. Your perspective is you do probably hear conversations behind closed doors that the angler never hears.
Right.
Hey, this guy's worked his butt off for us. Let's take care of it. And it go the other way that anglers have served their whole career somewhere, then all of a sudden a company gets bought out and they just cut everybody.
That's it, man. I'm telling you, it's usually not the person you have the relationship with. It's when they move on or the company gets bought by somebody else and somebody comes in and really what it is at the end of the day, I think, is new people come in and they've got to try their ideas,
Right.
and it's hard for them to inherit the ideas and the relationships of the people that came before them because they're trying to prove themselves,
They want different. They don't want to follow the plan that's been laid. It's like hiring a new high school football coach. He doesn't come in and run the same offense as the coach before him. He puts in a different offense to prove that he's better, so he may move a player around. For instance, Rigid. I mean, they were all inefficient. They hire new guys. All of a sudden, they're into dune racing, and it's just gone. And that's just their vision. And you're like, yes, sir. Man.
We have the KMC, our wheel sponsor that we had for years. We don't harbor any hurt towards them at all. That's just business.
We're going racing.
Part of it. So, but yeah, they swapped where they were spending their advertising dollars, and
that's what you want to try and instill in young anglers. Like I talk a lot with a young angler named Wes Logan, and I really think the world of him. He lives there in Spring. When I tell LeAnn, he reminds me a lot of myself. He's versatile in some ways, but not across the board like he wants to be. But he's just a no partner by trade. He's trying the hard way to make it. And I tell him all the time, I said, think big picture. Think big picture. Just because you have enough sponsors for this year, maybe to pay the bills, never stop thinking because that sponsor can be gone. That's I said, right. If you ever say, man, I got plenty of sponsors, I'm making plenty of money, or I'm going to be fine, that's when you get in trouble. Always work those relationships. And I tell him, I said, dude, shake hands, meet people. When you go to ICAST, I would tell him, hey, get out and hustle, dude. Hustle. Don't never ask for money at ICAST. I said, that's the kiss of death. Don't ask for anything.
It used to be that way, though. ICAST used to be the place to go, to
meet. But I said
to make deals.
Yeah, right. I said you want to shake hands, relationships, and this. I said if you have a company that you like and you have a bait that you really like, go to them and tell them.
Start that relationship.
I really like your product. I fish it. I believe in it. If you ever need any help in Springville, Alabama, call old Wes Logan. I got you back. That's it. But I said, when you see people walking in booths and handing out resumes, whether it's high school kids or college kids, as soon as they leave, most of the people throwing that in the garbage. They're trying to book PO orders for the rest of the year to be able to fund the marketing budget. Mm-hmm. So it's all action to them. And that's not really hard to say to people without sounding mean. I'm like, that's why they set Tackle Warehouse up, Bass Pro Shops here. They bring an angler in like Kevin or Polinick, and they come in and they're selling the product to Bass Pro or the Tackle Warehouse because they want to book that PO order. So to me, ICAST is, I tell them, I said, it's a great place to shake hands. And I said, dude, when dinner's over at night, if you're standing by the bar and somebody introduces you to the Plano guy or the lure lock guy, whoever it is, that's when relationships are built right there. That's it. But I said, you can't have that if you're not there. Because I hear anglers say, I'm not going to ICAST. It's a waste of time. No, it's not. It's busy. It's busy as crap for us. But it's not a waste of time.
No, definitely not. Hey, I'm going to take a quick break here, y'all. I think we've talked for half of our allotted time, and we haven't done the first segment yet. But I knew it was going to be this way. But before I go to break, I do want to ask this because you guys are very open, about your life. You're one of my. I talk all the time about how anglers, especially aspiring and up and coming anglers, need to show us more of their life instead of just the grip and grin pictures with fish. And you are you both of y'all are just greatest at doing that. But so this question is kind of tough because you do share so much, but what is something about y'all that most people don't know?
Trying to think of what we don't share.
Yeah. I mean, y'all are pretty open.
We're pretty transparent with our life, which is very vulnerable too, because some people may not agree with that. Like I may show a hunting picture and somebody might not agree with hunting. And I just told her though, I said, I don't want to be fake. That's just not who we are. I really don't know. A lot of people might not know we have a passion for old hot rod cars. I mean, we don't much because the relationship with Toyota and being respectful. But we both like old 66 Camaros, 69 Camaros, whatever we just like old cars and going to drag races. So it's something we don't promote a lot. Mm-hmm. But other than that,
we're an open book.
We're an open book. I'm like, it's a little scary. because I was like, I don't want people.
Well, you take criticism, but you're going to take criticism. He said something so profound about a year ago. Somebody had made an ugly comment on social media, and I do much better at that now. Back early on, it really got all over me, and I would be so upset. But he's told me, he said, baby, not everybody's going to love me. Not everybody loves Chick-fil-A and Jesus.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that I remind myself of that.
That's what I told her. I said, when you lay your soul or your life out on social media, somebody's going to say something negative, no matter how good or how it's just what people do. And I said, there's people on Facebook don't love Jesus or Chick-fil-A. So what makes you think they're going to love us for everything we do? You just have to know what's coming and stand firm that I don't intentionally try to do anything. I have an opinion. I try to keep it downplayed so much, but I don't hide the fact that we're very country, redneck, deer hunting, farming people. This is what we do, and we make mistakes. We're trying to help raise grandchildren. We're trying to do our best for our marriage and work, but we just want to show people that way. When you meet somebody, they can say, "Dude, you're exactly what's on Facebook." Yeah, because I ain't gonna fake it. I would rather be who I am and you dislike me as me to fake it and you like me.
Right. That's right. I agree 100%. Okay. I'm going to stop right here, take a quick break. We'll be right back. Do you know what your personal brand is? Because everyone has a personal brand. You may not be intentional about it yet, but all that you say or do or write or post contributes to how others perceive you. And that, my friends, is your personal brand. If you want to develop your brand and mean the things you want it to mean, I have a workbook that will help you get started, and it's free. You can download my Developing Your Personal Brand workbook at www.fishingbusinessschool.com/brand workbook. We're back on the Fishing Business Podcast with Gerald Swindle and his lovely wife and business manager, LeAnn. I mean, Lulu, do you think you're a business manager?
I tell people jokingly that I just am a jack of all trades, that I wear a lot of different hats.
She's right. A therapist.
Well, I tell you, one thing that I really always appreciated about LeAnn is, there's a lot of very high level professional anglers whose wives manage their careers. And I think it's a hats off to all of y'all, because I know it's hard. And as you said in the first segment, sometimes it can be a little bit, I think, challenging, because you can't, like you said, you can't get mad at your husband the same as you can get mad at your boss or somebody who works for you. But one thing that I always really respected and appreciated about y'all was LeAnn has a very good sense of when I need to talk to Gerald. There was some people that no matter how hard you tried to get through the wife to get to her husband because you really needed to talk to him, it was like a gate was up and you could not get through to get. But LeAnn, there were times when LeAnn would say, I could sense that you knew you needed to take care of that, not him. But there were also times when I would need something from Gerald, I would call you and you would say, let me get him to call you back on that, Angie. And that always was so nice for me, because I didn't feel like there was any tension there. I didn't feel like you had any ego about it. It was like some things you can handle, some things he needs to handle, right?
Right. And, years ago, we were approached by a marketing agency, would it be?
Yeah,
sports agency. And they wanted to sign Gerald. They wanted, to work for him. But our reluctancy for that was the fact that sponsors like to deal with Gerald. They like to deal with me. And I think for us, an agency wouldn't work, because that, I think, would happen a lot. I think if you were try to get to Gerald and just trying to go through an agency, you're probably not going to be able to. Yeah. So that was main reasons that we didn't go that route.
This is a tough business, though. Like Angie, I think for you do a great job trying to teach the young anglers and the up and coming anglers, not just young, but the rookie anglers that may be 40 who are trying to get their start in their career. When you talk about having an agent, it is a double-edged sword in fishing. It is super tricky, and there's some guys out there who do a great job. But the problem with this is you're selling somebody on your fishing skills and your marketing skills. And the one-on-one conversation or the handshake and the eye contact and that social skill is how that person can relate to you or get to know you or know, could you sell a lot more blades? Can you sell socks? And I think when you take that person away from that, it's just business. And I think some anglers, they think, man, I just like to have an agent. I don't know if everybody needs that. I think if we're going to sponsor me, you would at least want to know if I could speak in a room.
Right. And honestly, a lot of very smart, high level people, not a lot, but several high level people have said to me, you should be an agent. But I've always resisted that primarily because most of the really successful guys, they built their careers on their one-on-one relationships with these brands. And that's where the riches are, not money, but that's where the gold is, that's where the value is in those relationships. And I might be able to bring somebody new. I might be able to bring a Mountain Dew to the table, but they're never going to be the same as those relationships that you've established and built over the years.
Could mold him on how to do it, but at the end of the day, no matter how hard you work with him, you got to turn him loose. And if he can't perform at that pressure with Mountain Dew or whatever it is, it's going to be a little bad reflection of you. And the whole time you're like, that's the hard thing. You can't hardly have an agent without putting both guys together. People want an agent from it. You could be an agent, but you'd have to be a special blend where that anger was with you. When you said, hey, I'm going to call on Carhartt, he got on the plane with you and flew. But
that to me, the agent, the manager or whatever, that person to facilitate all of that, to go ahead and do the prep work, have everything lined up. And that's a lot of what I do is I might make that cold call. I might set up, a quick call. Hey, we've already done our upfront work, but let's get Gerald on a 10-minute chat, this afternoon. And let's just, all talk about this. So that seems to work good for us.
And I ain't going to say this on Angie. They'll say, well, I don't know how to sell sponsorship because I got nothing to offer. Okay. Have you ever thought about telling them that? Listen, I'm a new and upcomer and I've got nothing to offer. I don't have a loaded resume, but I'll work harder than anybody you got. I'll wash boats. I'll cut grass. I said, have you ever tried that? I said, just do it one time. Tell them, hey, I don't have 25 wins like KVD. I might one day, but right now I have time to work for your company. You tell me what you need and I'll do my very best to help you. I said, people are so scared to say what they don't have.
I learned this about him, and I'd never heard this story. And I learned this recently, that early on he would go to the Classic or the show.
I go to the Classic when they're having the boat shows in Birmingham, and I worked for L&L Marine, and I didn't have a deal then. I was just so new. I would go to the boat show and help them push the boats in, clean the boats, wash the boats, wipe the boats down, run back out the truck, put my tournament jersey on and come back, stand by the boats and then help them move them back. And I didn't have a deal. That dealer to know, hey, this young guy wants to try it. And that's what I tell him, be willing to work. No matter if he says, well, I don't really have nothing you can do. Well, I'm going to hang around and you need me to take the trash out anyway.
I'll sweep up after everybody goes home.
The pride level, there's too much pride now. People think, well, I caught her pretty good in this level event. I should just get money. They don't work that way. They have to sell product. Right. And you have to be
So does it give you an advantage? Does it give a pro an advantage, Gerald, to have a wife or even a mom or someone in your life managing your business, or because everybody doesn't have that, right?
I think it's most definitely an advantage to a large level, whether it's just a better mental state of mind, whether it's a better organization or a better foundation for a larger fan base or sponsorship base. Having that team player, and I've talked to anglers about this. I said, dude, my wife won't do any of this, none. And it's like, it would be a huge help. It's not for everybody, but you just almost need somebody. This ain't the days back when you just used to go fish 6 tournaments and go home and nobody ever heard from you again. This is a full-time business. Social, YouTube, sponsored videos, requests, making stuff for their social. It's a never-ending 365-day-a-year job.
Right.
Well, and I think sometimes people don't understand when LeAnn talked earlier about the prep work of getting things in place. Even with me with this podcast, people will say, "Oh my gosh, I bet that's so fun. You just have to talk for an hour a week," and and I'm like, well, it's a lot more than just talking for an hour a week. There's a lot that goes into all the planning and the prep work and the making sure everything works right and it's scheduled right and all that stuff that nobody ever sees.
I think that we've talked about that a lot. I don't think people see the amount of prep work from her standpoint of just say January and February. That's when the new boats come in, the wraps have been redesigned, sponsors are finally finishing up the contracts. It's show season. I'm traveling. The jersey comes back wrong. The set of logos wrong. The boat wrap comes back incorrect. It's a snowball effect. And then by that time, I'm in every airport flying around the country. And then as soon as I get home, I'm trying to repack a new boat, load a truck. Nobody ever sees the 16, 18-hour work days in the garage. They just don't see it. There's a lot of prep work to that launch at the Bassmasters Elite Series when you go idling out, when the fans are clapping. That's the best part of it, because that means most of the work is done. I have 9 hours of competition in front of me. I did the best that I can do. I'm as most prepared as I can be. Let's play ball. And that's right. The fishing, the tournaments. I tell people, they said, do you get nervous in tournaments? I said, no, most of the time it's my 9 hours of private time. It's the most relaxed because all the work has been done.
Well, and I don't think, I was always really fascinated with those 6 weeks leading up to the Classic, man. I'm telling you what, as you well know, that could be some of the most stressful times of the year because, right? I mean, we've all seen it. And I would get so many phone calls from people saying, I've got to have this logo, or my jerseys came back wrong, or the brand hasn't told me what to do yet. And, it just trying to sync up all those things to get them to come together at the right time and have everything ready for the Classic, the biggest stage in the sport. It's incredibly stressful.
It is, and we've talked about it before, and I enjoy the Spring Classic, and it's great for the fans, and I see all the positives. The only thing I've ever wished is sometime the Classic was in the fall, because you're in the boat that you fished out of, the jersey that you fished out of, and you go through the season and you complete that task and you start over. Mm-hmm. But a lot of contracts lay over the next year, so once you start doing boat wraps and jerseys, when you show up and we've showed up at the tournament, got the jersey the night before the tournament started, and it's been incorrect.
Yeah.
Hard to fish that next day knowing the butt chewing coming.
That butt chewing's coming.
Yeah.
It's extremely stressful. But between the sponsors trying to get their booths there, they're overwhelmed. The angler's overwhelmed.
I mean, we've all seen people getting their wrap put on the night before the tournament starts in the Classic City.
They all putting stickers on this stuff's crooked, and they're like, "Hey, dude, I'm just trying to get it on there, man. I'm just trying to get it."
Well, and speaking of the Classic being in the spring, I was in the room when that decision was made to move it, and I did understand there was a lot of discussion. It wasn't an easy decision, and it was drastically changing the sport by moving it. But the one thing that a guy named Mark Quinzel, who was an executive at ESPN, what he said, and that was at a time when ESPN owned the sport, had just bought Bass. But what he said, and it made a lot of sense, was he said, "You mean to tell me that the biggest event we own, that everybody gets excited about, that all the eyes are watching, that everybody is aware of, we build up all this incredible momentum, and then we go dark for 4 months and nobody hears from us for 4 months?" And I was like, yeah, I mean, that's the way the Super Bowl is, right? But we're not the NFL. And he was a guy who had brought NASCAR along. Quinzel had been very involved in ESPN's relationship with NASCAR, where they built NASCAR. And that's what they did. They had their big Daytona 500 at the beginning of the season so they could take that momentum into the next events and really leverage it and get more out of it.
You see the business side of why it's done the way it is, because it has a lot of positive things from a selfish angler standpoint. You're just like, I wish we fished it in October.
Right.
And then start. Right. But I say, I do see it. And the Classic is getting bigger and bigger. Birmingham last year was packed house, I think. In Texas this year will be good. And I mean, overall, look what the coronavirus has done to fishing. More people bought license. I see more people on the water. I think fish is going to continue to grow.
Yeah.
Grow at a very rapid pace. I think more young anglers try to get involved in it.
Well, okay. So going back, LeAnn, what's the most surprising thing you learned? Because I know you had a background in banking, I think, didn't you, before you became a business manager? So what's the most surprising thing you found in the business of fishing?
The most surprising. Ooh. That's a good one. I think about that.
Hey, let's put it this way. The most surprising thing you can actually share with the public.
Yeah, that's pretty well. A lot of things going through my head.
I think one of the surprises we had was like is early on when I started doing Facebook, I was intrigued by it because I didn't know anything about it. And I probably stayed on it too much trying to learn it. And she was kind of against it. She was She kind of
I was against it because it was so time consuming.
And I just kind of stayed at it. I said, hey, I got to learn how to do this. She's like, you can't even use a computer. I'm like, I'm going to figure out how to do this. And then fast forward 5 or 6 years later, she looked at me one day and she said, I am so glad you didn't listen and you did Facebook. Because she said, who would have ever dreamed that Facebook, social following, Instagram would have so much to do with an angler's career. It was almost like it was a surprise to her. She's like, this is the piece of the puzzle that we never seen coming. That's going to be a huge piece. You know, it was like,
I'm going to take his answer. Seriously, I was totally against it. I never thought it would take off. I mean, you know, I'm older, so MySpace was probably the first social, but I never would have thought that social media would play such a role, especially with sponsors. I mean, over the years, one contract they would start building in social media requirements. And now you don't get a contract without social media requirements. So that is extremely surprising to me, but I am glad that he didn't listen to me because that would have been bad.
You know, fishing used to be the tournaments, the ESPN TV show that you guys produced, what was seen on TV. It was Jerry at the mic, the stage, guys, vendors. That was fishing. That's all you had. And now you got Facebook and YouTube and Instagram where fishing never stops. You're relevant, you know, and that's the hard part about the grasp at first. You're like, how is this going to, you would be like, how is that going to help you in fishing? And I'm like, I don't know. We're just going to learn it. And we go back and we're going surprising is a huge part of every angler's career. And some of the guys that sit and said they fought it and didn't want to do it, they're regretting it.
Yeah. I think that I can definitely see that. If for new people starting out, a new guy and his wife, how would you advise them to approach their social media presence?
I would say my first thing would be, don't be afraid to be honest. And you know, if you're from a small town in Idaho, don't be afraid to say it. You know, if you're not rolling with a gold American Express card in your pocket, don't be afraid to say it. You know, I don't have the endless funds, so I'm going to do this. I think by doing that, you create the people out there can relate to you. There's somebody driving a backhoe working for the city of Gunnersville that can relate to your position, that he didn't have all the money and he likes to fish. He becomes a fan for life. He don't just like your page because of one good post. Right. He became an instant fan of Brandon and Polly. So I think don't be afraid to tell your story. Be proud of who you are and share the ups and downs. Don't just share all the ups, you know.
I think people that follow you, fans, followers, they see through that.
I think so. We think sometimes like the fans see through that. I tell you somebody who I think, like right now, LeAnn and I, we get really tickled. Jesse Wiggins and his girlfriend or fiance or whatever, Haley, they just had a baby, and Jesse has a decent social media following, but his fiance, baby mama, Haley, is the best you've ever seen on social media. She ain't even trying. She could have her own TV show, and she ain't even trying. And I tell her, man, how easy it is. She's just being her. She ain't being silly. I said that sometimes it just comes across as that. I think being consistent with social media, trying to stay on it, trying to keep the content coming, try not to do too much of the same stuff over and over, you know, keep it fresh so people know. If you post the same type content, like you said, talked about earlier, over and over and over, the fans know when it comes up what's going to be there. So it's almost like you kind of got to keep them guessing, you know, and that's.
You definitely keep them guessing.
Listen, I'm going to do something I've never done before. I'm sitting here editing this, and I realize as I'm putting the graphics on it and getting ready to upload it to the podcast app and to YouTube, I realize it's too long. Gerald and I and LeAnn and I just talked about too many things and I don't want to cut anything out. So I'm going to make a two-parter out of this. So what I usually do is have one complete and concise conversation in one episode, but this time I'm going to split it in two. I think it's worth it to hear to hear all the things that Gerald and LeAnn have to say, because Gerald does keep them guessing, but LeAnn keeps him on track. And that's what we'll talk about next week on the Fishing Business Podcast. All right, guys, I'm still going to close it out the way Jerry McInnes always closed out his shows, by saying this is dedicated to Dad, because he always had time to take me fishing. See you next time, y'all.